ever grow in our hearts. You were the grace that placed yourselves where lives were torn apart. You called out to our country and you whispered to those in pain. Now you belong to heaven and the stars spell out your name. And it seems to me you lived your life like a candle in the wind, never fading with the sunset when the rain set in. And your footsteps will always fall here along England's greenest hills. Your candles burned out long before your legend ever will. Loveliness we've lost, those empty days without your smile. This torch we'll always carry for our nation's golden child. Even though we try, the truth brings us to tears. All our words cannot express the joy you brought us through the years. Goodbye, English road, from a country lost without your soul, who missed the wings of your compassion more than you will ever know. And it seems to me you've lived your life like a candle in the wind, never fading with the sunset when the rain set in. Your footsteps will always fall here along England's greenest hills. Your candles burned out long before your legend ever will. Loveliness we've lost, those empty days without your smile. This torch we'll always carry for our nation's golden child. Even though we try, the truth brings us to tears. All our words cannot express the joy you brought us through the years. And it seems to me you've lived your life like a candle in the wind, never fading with the sunset when the rain set in. And your footsteps will always fall here along England's greenest hills. Your candles burned out long before your legend ever will. Goodbye, England's rose, may you ever grow in our hearts. You were the grace that placed yourselves where lives were torn apart. Goodbye, English road, from a country lost without your soul, who missed the wings of your compassion more than you will ever know. And it seems to me you've lived your life like a candle in the wind, never fading with the sunset when the rain set in. And your footsteps will always fall here along England's greenest hills. Your candles burned out long before your legend ever will.
I stand before you today, the representative of a family in grief, in a country in mourning, before a world in shock. We are all united, not only in our desire to pay our respects to Diana, but rather in our need to do so. For such was her extraordinary appeal, that the tens of millions of people taking part in this service all over the world, via television and radio, who never actually met her, feel that they too lost someone close to them in the early hours of Sunday morning. It is a more remarkable tribute to Diana than I can ever hope to offer her today. Diana was the very essence of compassion, of duty, of style, of beauty. All over the world, she was a symbol of selfless humanity, a standard bearer for the rights of the truly downtrodden, a very British girl who transcended nationality, someone with a natural nobility who was classless, and who proved in the last year that she needed no royal title to continue to generate her particular brand of magic. Today is our chance to say thank you for the way you brightened our lives, even though God granted you but half a life. We will all feel cheated, always, that you were taken from us so young, and yet we must learn to be grateful that you came along at all. Only now you are gone do we truly appreciate what we are now without, and we want you to know that life without you is very, very difficult. We have all despaired at our loss over the past week, and only the strength of the message you gave us through your years of giving has afforded us the strength to move forward. There is a temptation to rush to canonize your memory. There is no need to do so. You stand tall enough as a human being of unique qualities, not to need to be seen as a saint. Indeed, to sanctify your memory would be to miss out on the very core of your being, your wonderfully mischievous sense of humor with a laugh that bent you double, your joy for life transmitted wherever you took your smile, and the sparkle in those unforgettable eyes, your boundless energy which you could barely contain. But your greatest gift was your intuition, and it was a gift you used wisely. This is what underpinned all your other wonderful attributes. And if we look to analyze what it was about you that had such a wide appeal, we find it in your instinctive feel for what was really important in all our lives. Without your God-given sensitivity, we would be immersed in greater ignorance at the anguish of AIDS and HIV sufferers, the plight of the homeless, the isolation of lepers, the random destruction of landmines. Diana explained to me once that it was her innermost feelings of suffering that made it possible for her to connect with her constituency of the rejected. And here we come to another truth about her. For all the status, the glamour, the applause, Diana remained throughout a very insecure person at heart, almost childlike in her desire to do good for others, so she could release herself from deep feelings of unworthiness, of which her eating disorders were merely a symptom. The world sensed this part of her character and cherished her for her vulnerability, whilst admiring her for her honesty. The last time I saw Diana was on July the 1st, her birthday, in London, when typically she was not taking time to celebrate her special day with friends, but was guest of honor at a fundraising charity evening. She sparkled, of course, but I would rather cherish the days I spent with her in March when she came to visit me and my children in our home in South Africa. I am proud of the fact that, apart from when she was on public display meeting President Mandela, we managed to contrive to stop the ever-present paparazzi from getting a single picture of her. That meant a lot to her. These were days I will always treasure. It was as if we had been transported back to our childhood, when we spent such an enormous amount of time together, the two youngest in the family. Fundamentally, she hadn't changed at all from the big sister who mothered me as a baby, fought with me at school, and endured those long train journeys between our parents' homes with me at weekends. It is a tribute to her level-headedness and strength that despite the most bizarre life imaginable after her childhood, she remained intact, true to herself. There is no doubt that she was looking for a new direction in her life at this time. She talked endlessly of getting away from England, mainly because of the treatment that she received at the hands of the newspapers. I don't think she ever understood why her genuinely good intentions were sneered at by the media, why there appeared to be a permanent quest on their behalf to bring her down. It is baffling. My own and only explanation is that genuine goodness is threatening to those at the opposite end of the moral spectrum. It is a point to remember that of all the ironies about Diana, perhaps the greatest was this: a girl given the name of the ancient goddess of hunting was, in the end, the most hunted person of the modern age. She would want us today to pledge ourselves to protecting her beloved boys, William and Harry, from a similar fate. And I do this here, Diana, on your behalf. We will not allow them to suffer the anguish that used regularly to drive you to tearful despair. And beyond that, on behalf of your mother and sisters, I pledge that we, your blood family, will do all we can to continue the imaginative and loving way in which you were steering these two exceptional young men, so that their souls are not simply immersed by duty and tradition, but can sing openly as you planned. We fully respect the heritage into which they have both been born, and will always respect and encourage them in their royal role. But we, like you, recognize the need for them to experience as many different aspects of life as possible, to arm them spiritually and emotionally for the years ahead. I know you would have expected nothing less from us. William and Harry, we all care desperately for you today. We're all chewed up with sadness at the loss of a woman who wasn't even our mother. How great your suffering is, we cannot even imagine. I would like to end by thanking God for the small mercies he's shown us at this dreadful time, for taking Diana at her most beautiful and radiant, and when she had joy in her private life. Above all, we give thanks for the life of a woman I'm so proud to be able to call my sister, the unique, the complex, the extraordinary and irreplaceable Diana, whose beauty, both internal and external, will never be extinguished from our minds.
Let us commend our sister Diana to the mercy of God, our Maker and Redeemer. Died for you. In the power of the Holy Spirit, who strengthens you. At one with all the faithful, living and departed, May you rest in peace and rise in glory, where grief and misery are banished, and light and joy evermore abide. Amen.
Westminster Abbey, final journey for Diana, the Princess of Wales, begins, leaving the Abbey once again through the streets of England, to London, this time in a hearse. Begin the long journey up to the Spencer family home, Aldra, about 70 miles north of London. Another remarkable hour in what has been a week of remarkable hours. A service certainly like no other this country has ever seen. Quite frankly, yet another moment of no precedent. From Elton John to quite remarkable speech by Diana's brother, Earl Spencer.
And as we're hearing the applause now as the hearse leaves the Abbey, what was also remarkable about it was the applause in the Abbey. Clearly the music and the words, particularly of Earl Spencer, seemed to touch a real chord with the people who were listening all over London. As we pointed out, there were loudspeakers here outside Buckingham Palace. There were big video screens in Hyde Park. You may have seen the huge crowds of people there, all watching and listening to what went on inside historic Westminster Abbey.
And we will continue to cover the procession of the hearse as it finds its way back through some familiar ground down Whitehall, where King Coffin was born on the gun carriage a little more than an hour ago. Up through Horse Guards Arch, Canal, Buckingham Palace, Hyde Park, and then it begins to head north. We should tell you, because I know some of you have been wondering, inside the Abbey there were restrictions, very firm restrictions placed on the cameras about who could be shown. The Spencer family wanted the cameras to be focused on the service and not on those in the audience. And that is why you saw no familiar faces nor members of either family sitting in their seats during the service. As you can tell, the streets still line 10, 12, 15, 20 deep in places.
It is remarkable to think, when you think of the hundreds of thousands of people who have been in the streets, not only this week, but particularly today, and how it is so quiet. During that moment of silence, it was very eerie. People totally absorbed in their own grief, clearly. But London, Britain, truly did come to a standstill.
And it's almost as, isn't it? It's almost as if the silence had to be broken, and they've broken it with clapping. They've shown now they want to thank her before they see her go for the last time. They want to show how much they appreciate her as much as how much they are saddened by her death.
You probably noticed no formal ending to the service in the Abbey, and that was deliberate. As far as the Spencer family is concerned, as we watch members of the royal family leave the Abbey, the service is continuing as we watch the procession wind its way through the streets of London, and will continue to do so until the coffin arrives at the family estate, and the burial takes place much later on today in private. Now, cameras will be along for most of the route in London, and then after that, by the request of the family, there will be very, very few pictures allowed once Diana's coffin leaves the British capital.
You heard, in fact, in the tribute to Diana from her brother, perhaps an indication of how fiercely the Spencer family wants to protect their privacy, but also the privacy of William and Harry. Clearly, when we talk about the range of emotion one feels when